909 in Studio is brought to you by 90.9 The Bridge in Kansas City. To find out how you can become a sustaining member or to donate, go to bridge909.org. Middle kids are Hannah Joy, Tim Fitz, Harry Day, and joined today by Cameron Henderson on guitar, playing tonight at the Record Bar. Hannah, this is you. Couldn't they find a more recent picture?
I don't know. That is me. I think I'm like 8 there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an oldie.
Yeah, you were a flower girl in this picture.
I was a flower girl 5 times in my career. That was my 3rd time, though.
Is that, have you checked with the Guinness Book of World Records?
I should. I need another auntie to get married so I can be another one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So Australia, one of the seemingly never-ending wave of great Australian acts coming in lately. Something in the water down there?
Maybe, yeah. There are some awesome bands and artists coming out of Australia.
So you and Tim are both middle kids.
Yep.
And you must feel strongly about it to name your band after it.
Tim?
Well, actually, I wanted it to be called Middle School, but then they didn't like it, so I said Middle Kids as a compromise, and they liked it. So, I don't know. I guess it's like not that exciting a story.
Well,
we should get a better story, I feel.
Well, you know, there's that whole psychological theory that the second kid, the middle kid, comes along and tries to emulate the first kid, but the first kid's already done it, so it's not as exciting. And the first kid is older, so you can never do it as well, and so the second kid struggles. And then if there's a third kid, the third kid looks at the second kid and sees a struggle and says, "Oh no, I'm going to go that way." Right? So middle kid is a thing.
It is a total thing.
That's absolutely true.
You're telling our story. We're going to cry soon.
Wow, that's the first time I've ever blown an in studio in the first 2 minutes, right? Bring the band to tears. You know, I think that one of the things that surprises me so much about the band is that Tim and Harry had been playing in bands together, but like 5 years ago, you all didn't know Hannah. And 5 years ago, there was no middle kids. And, you know, spill the beans, Tim and Hannah, you are married now. You've got a full-length album. It's like that amount of change in that period of time has got to be just head-spinning.
Yeah, it was pretty intense, especially because we got married and then basically that week after we like started the band. So it's been pretty like roly-poly from that moment. It's about 2.5 years ago now. So yeah, it's been pretty wild, but like the best ever. We have so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a promo picture with not only you and Tim, but also Harry under the comforter, and like I'm not even going to ask that question.
Well, that one we took in London.
We're very close. Yeah. It's undeniable.
On our first tour of the States, Harry shared our hotel room for the whole 2 months. So
us three in the same room.
It was a terrible time for all of us.
It was a great lesson in monogamy for me.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's so funny because you had all been sort of working on your own things when you came together. And, you know, the first song that we, got involved with was Edge of Town, which was the first song where you really felt like you discovered the sound of you all operating together as a collective.
Definitely. I think that was definitely like the catalyst of Middle Kids, because I actually wrote that originally as an electro pop song and I couldn't like get it to go anywhere. And then Tim was like, you should play guitar on that. And then once we started kind of working with that, we just realized it was a really special sound. And it really lended itself to like a band. It's like a band vibe, We've always wanted to be in bands, so it's like pretty fun to do it.
So y'all had been working on solo projects for quite some time. And so to have the level of success that you had with that song as quickly as you had to be a little bit shocking.
Yeah, I think it was shocking. I think in Australia, like we'd all done sort of little things, but for instance, some of the radio stations there were aware of what we'd been doing. So I think we got a lot of support very quickly from them because it sort of, I guess, made sense. Like they were already interested in some of our separate projects and they were like, oh, they're all doing a band together. But it was disorienting to have people listen to our music for once.
Not all fans are created equal. And having Elton John as a fan had to be a little bit mind-blowing.
Yeah, it was cool.
How did that even happen?
We honestly have no idea. It's like people ask us about it, and we've never like talked to him or met him or anything, but I don't know, he's into it.
So, when Elton John calls attention to you and you start blowing up here and there, all of a sudden record labels came calling and you signed to Domino, and then all of a sudden, fast forward, it's like, you all met in 2014 and here you are in 2018 with a record and you're touring and people are going to the shows, which has got to be great. And, they know the words to some of the songs. So kind of fabulous.
Yeah, I think like that's probably the most special thing for us is like we all just love playing and singing so much. So to be able to do that with different people each night is like so special and have big sing-alongs. It's super fun.
Yeah. And of course, the Middle Kids playing tonight at the Record Bar. We'd love to have a song if we could.
Okay. We'll play Board It, which is the opening track on the album.
At the end of all this, I thought that I had fought it, but like clockwork, it seems to keep on coming. Oh dear, you saw me on a night when I was pleased, and I tried to act alright, smooth talking, and I saw you go. I'm crawling to the nearest exit. Took that photograph of me. Don't act so embarrassed. We all do dumb things when we're lonely, and you know my heart deeply. But we don't talk about that, do we? And hold your white flag of silence. Help me now.
Middle Kids this afternoon on the bridge. That was fabulous. That was great. Enjoyed that a lot. So, Hannah, when you were growing up, you have an older brother?
Yeah.
And your dad, and those were where you got a lot of the musical influences from, right?
Uh-huh. My brother used to burn me CDs, and then I'd listen to them on my little, what are they called? Discmans. Discman. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I have only the vaguest of memories from when I'm like 3 years old or 4 years old.
Uh-huh.
And so I can't imagine that you probably remember much about this. But like if I'm your parent and you're 3 years old and you go up and start playing the piano, like what did you do at 3?
Yeah, my parents were just in the house, and my dad listens to a lot of classical music, and I apparently just started playing Pachelbel's Canon on the piano. But just like the simple bam, 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 bam. But they were like, what on earth? I mean, yeah, I have no memory of this.
Yeah, I can't, you know, having been around 3-year-olds, this is like a little shocking, right?
Yeah, so Mum was like, get her to lessons. And then I just played for a long, long time after that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's funny. It's like, so you have that home life, and Tim, your parents were doctors in Papua New Guinea. And so that's not really where you know, your country of origin or anything, but you were there for the first 10 years of your life.
That's right. And my older sister is a doctor, and I'm a musician. So there's that middle kids theory right there.
And he tried to be a doctor too.
I did try, but then I joined a band and stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of music in the area where we lived in Papua New Guinea, but it was like tribal music, a lot of it, and very percussive. But then there were influences there would be like cheap Yamaha keyboards around, so you could play like little drum beats and experiment with whatever synth sounds were on cheap keyboards in the 90s. So I don't know, that was probably the main. Oh, and like Nashville gospel music that people would send my parents.
Isn't that funny?
So they're not very legit influences, but they're my influences from it being a kid.
It's a good melting pot, though, you know?
Yeah, it's some weird stuff there, which I think is good.
You know, and then, Hannah, later on, you had an experience of leaving home, and you spent time in Maryland. Mm-hmm. And there's a song on the album, and you know, just such a strong sense of like what is home in a way.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like I moved there, I was 17, and I was pretty lost. And I had this incredible experience of moving to a place and really feeling at home there, even though it didn't have like the markers of home or the familiarity. But I just like was really embraced by the school and community I was in, and just really like taught me of like how like people are really how you build home, as opposed to like more so than the places themselves. So that's been like, yeah, and I go back there all the time now.
Yeah.
It really feels like home.
So you started on piano at 3, and really you've continued classical training, and I'd really like a little bit of clarification. Is the symphony something that you're going to do later on, or are you actually working on one now?
Well, I mean, I have worked on it, but I can see it being like a thing probably when I'm older. Like I've done some movements of it, and they're probably just like definitely a work in progress. But I think, as I get older, that'll be something. I'm talking like decades.
Right.
I'm going to work on it for a long time.
Yeah. So that classical sort of rock, like how did you balance that?
Well, I think actually I went to a music college in Sydney, and I was doing a lot of like orchestral stuff, mainly wanting to get into film. But I think it was then when I started really missing the collaborative element of music, and I think that's why bands are so fun, because it's real like person to person. Whereas I was realizing like film scoring is actually a lot just you and your computer, which was kind of sad for me. But I think that like, yeah, sometimes I feel like I wish I was lending my hand more to that creative process in the classical realm. But like this is just so fun, and like doing it with like best friends is just like, it's definitely like the thing I want to be doing.
Right, absolutely. Well, I don't necessarily think that we should be listening for, Pink Floyd, Neil Young, Radiohead, Sigur Rós, National, classical music, cheap Yamaha keyboards, Nashville gospel influences in this next song, but we would love to hear one.
Cool. This is Mistake, which was our first single off the record.
So much fun. So much fun. The Middle Kids here on the bridge. And of course, the brand new album is called Lost Friends. And there will be copies tonight at the merch table at the Record Bar. So when you got that first song and all of a sudden it exploded, well, here comes an EP. Let's get that together real quick, and capitalize on the success. And then when you have that kind of success, everybody wants the full-length record. So all of a sudden, you had done it sort of a do-it-yourself kind of project, DIY, and now all of a sudden people start giving you resources, producers, studios. How did that work out for you?
Well, it's actually really funny because we were, when we started to make the album, we were like, we should do this properly in a studio because we made the EP at home. And we actually started off trying in a studio in New South Wales in Australia. And we just could not get a vibe we liked. So we ended up just scrapping that plan and going back home and starting again and making it at home. And then it was kind of like a patchwork quilt because we started at home with like guitars and bass and a lot of like the peripheral instruments, and then we went and got a house in the middle of nowhere and did a week of drums, and then we went to the studio in Sydney and did the vocals. So we kind of like built it in like almost a backwards way.
So were the drums and the vocals going to different studios because you couldn't get the right sound at home? Or?
Harry wanted to be in like a nice space, so we got this like cool country house. So that's why we got that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very fussy about the environment that I work in.
No. It was like this beautiful country house with like all this land, and it was so nice.
You know, the thing about the DIY stuff is that it allows you to, I guess, go your own pace and experiment a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if Harry's the one to answer this question, but brushes from a broom?
Yeah, that was actually Tim's idea. We saw a jazz gig in Sydney by a drummer called Jim Black, who's an amazing drummer from New York, and he was using these broomstick brushes. They're actually people make them, but they're too expensive, so we just went to a hardware shop and bought a broom and then cut it up and taped it together.
And percussion of a guitar pick, tapping the table.
That's Tim, because he could do a lot of that stuff at home. I would come home at night and he'd be in his undies, just in this mixing world, doing these really wild things, wrapped up in 1,000 chords. But we got him back out alive, which is nice.
So eventually you get this record together, but then you did seek out some help in mixing it.
Yes.
I sense enthusiasm.
Yeah, well, we got Peter Caters to mix it. We went to his house in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and we love so much of the stuff he's worked on, like Interpol and The National, and he did Yoncey's. There's just so much there.
Yeah, the Yancey record is amazing.
So that was a really special time, just to kind of be in and around him too. He's cool.
Yeah, in other interviews, you referred to it as his job was mopping up the mess.
Yeah, we kind of felt a little bit insecure seeing we'd done it ourselves and we'd never done a record before. So we wanted someone who could fix it up if we'd made mistakes, and he's just a wizard, so he cleaned it up good. It was nice.
So you were there for a lot of that learning experience?
It was a quick mixing session. We were there for about a week, and then he did a week by himself after of revisions. It was a learning experience, but it was almost like he knows so much that it would take too long to learn that. So it was kind of like just watching someone who's amazing and sort of trying to absorb something of what their essence is, rather than him being like, this is how you do this, because he just had too much going on in his head.
You know, it's really funny, and I don't know that it really needs to be said, but sometimes when you hear DIY, you think about your cousin who decided that he could build his own deck, and you don't really feel safe standing on it, and so and it took me a while to figure out, I don't have a cousin that did that. I had to find something to say that wouldn't offend a family member. But this album is really good, and it's so varied in the styles and the types of music. Was that something that you set out to do, to get, all these different elements in?
Well, I think, thank you for saying that, firstly.
Yeah.
I think, after making the EP, which was, quite condensed, and we were trying to, get as much in as possible, I think making an LP was exciting because it meant that we could put more moments, have more, dynamic variation. So I think we were quite thoughtful in how we wanted to use that 40 minutes in terms of, having tracks with more intensity and then having songs where you can breathe a little bit more. But I think the songs really just kind of led the way in that. I wrote a lot because when we did the EP, we were touring so much. And so many of the songs just came while we were on the road, which was really cool. And then when we came back, we just kind of sorted through them. But I think that, we wanted to use the time, but I think we were just responding to the songs, really. And, I think that was, the main driver of everything.
We take videos and we put them up online and we put them on television, and I think if I didn't ask this question, somebody would question me later. Why didn't you ask her about her playing the guitar upside down?
Well, It just, I mean, my dad had a guitar and I picked it up when I was little, and I'm very left-handed. I'm not like very strong with my right hand at all. And so this was the way that I thought it was played until someone told me it was like much too late to change. I mean, I probably could, but I've tried and it's no good. Yeah, it's good.
You're not the first
basics.
person to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know Steve Earle, he started like this, but backwards because his uncle had a left-hand guitar and he's right-handed. And so, but then about a year in, he ended up flipping because we went on tour with him and he told me, he was like, you should try and go back to normal. It'll open up your world.
Yeah.
But I'm too scared at this point.
So you cut some demos, and in one of the demos, you played the bass in the demo. And then, Tim, when you went to try and replicate it, it didn't sound the same because she'd flipped the bass. So you had to, did you flip the bass
I
too?
flipped it, yeah. So I was playing on my weak side.
Flip it, baby.
But yeah, it's cool. It was the same with Edge of Town when Hannah played the guitar on it. It's because she sort of strums upwards and she's not resting her wrist on the guitar or something. It has a certain feeling to it, and you can't really get it without either her playing it. But in the bass, I sort of would play really. She sort of
badly
plays. No, not badly, but she plays it. She plucks it really hard. And it sort of slaps in a strange way, and I was just trying to do what she was doing. But it's got a total vibe. Whenever Hannah has it, she'll record a whole song by herself, and then I'll come and change a few things. But a lot of it just remains because it's just got a great atmosphere and emotion to it, the way she plays.
Well, we've absolutely loved having you all in today. And I know that the show tonight at the Record Bar is going to be fabulous. We'd love to get one more song if we could.
We're going to play On My Knees.
The big green eyes and the looking freeway. Give me a hand, I said, give me a hand, 'cause mine are open. I'm just hoping so that you are never far from my mind. I swear I am on my knees, it's different. I swear, falling off my feet. I swear, everything a little different, something there that I have never seen. What is the plan? I said, what is the plan? I am the second. I am a roadside distraction, and they're looking at me as if I got what they need. But I don't got it, don't got it, don't got it. And you think I know, but I don't know, I don't know. I swear, I am on my knees, it's the bed. I swear, falling off my feet. I swear, everything a little different, something that I have never seen. Ha! I swear, I am on my knees, it's different. I swear, when I've fallen off my feet. I swear, everything a little different, something that I have never seen. There is something that I have never seen. Yeah. I swear when I am on my knees, it's different. I swear when I've fallen off my feet. I stare at everything a little different. Something there that I have never seen. There is something there that I have never seen.
Middle Kids on the Bridge. That was great. You know, one of the things we really haven't talked too much about, Hannah, you're the principal songwriter, and I think that so many of these songs function so well as rock songs, and then as you hear them more and more and the words start to sink in, you realize there's another level to the song. It's beautifully done.
Thank you very much.
That one's about being part of something bigger than just yourself.
Yeah, which is probably something we've all really learnt even from being in a band, you know? It's like submitting part of yourself to be a part of something bigger, and then when we can do that as people and communities, it's like a really beautiful unity happens. It's like really special.
Joined today in the studio by the Middle Kids, Hannah, Tim, Harry, Cameron. Thanks so much. I know that being on the road's hard enough without coming in and spending some time with us. It's a total gift, and we appreciate it greatly. Middle Kids at the Record Bar tonight. The new album is Lost Friends. Thanks again.
Thank you.